Hello, everyone. My name is Miss Elaine. I'm one of the children's librarians at the Bedford Free Public Library. And this is a book bit, which are short book talks about books which we think you might like to check out. Today's theme is books about persistence and patience and perseverance, which I know I need desperately, especially during this time. So these books might be kind of fun and give you some ideas. Did you ever hear the expression moving mountains, which usually means facing something that seems to be impossible? Well, the first book is about a man who does move a mountain. Manjhi Moves a Mountain by Nancy Churnin, and it's illustrated by Danny Popvici. And it's a book about a man, based on a true story about a man in India who lives in a very poor village. And there's a village that's on one side of the mountain that's very wealthy. It has markets and hospitals and schools, but on his side it doesn't have any of those things. And so one day he was at the top of the mountain and he looked down at both villages and he says, "This is not fair. What is going on? What can I do?" And he was so frustrated. He picked up a stone and he threw it on the ground and it crumbled and the dust came up and he got a great idea. He went home, got his 3 goats, and he went all around the village until finally he found someone who traded a used hammer and chisel for his goats. And chip, 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 clang, clang, hold aim, swing, clang, clang, clunk. For 22 years he chipped away at that mountain. And he did it. He persevered. Talk about patience and perseverance and persistence. He was able to, what was once a 34-mile hike around the mountain became a 9-mile walk across it. At first, the other villagers laughed at him. They didn't understand what was going on. But after a long time, they began to respect him, and some of them even helped him with this passion of his, which helped the community immensely. So this is a true story, which began in the 1960s, and Danny Popvici's illustrations, they just mirror the text beautifully. It's a beautiful text. And earth tones, and here's a night sky. Manji did most of his work at night, so the constellations kind of look like what Manji is doing. And the author says, maybe you can move a mountain too. And that's a good idea. Making a molehill out of the mountain is never easy, but Manji never gave up, which is what the people in Bedford are doing. You're not giving up. You're helping your community just as Manji helped his. So that's the story of Manji Moves a Mountain. At the end, I'll have a list of all the books and some other ideas if you'd like at the bottom. The next, have you ever heard the nursery rhyme, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Well, did you ever wonder why he was on the wall in the first place? And did you ever wonder what happened after the fall? Well, this book is called After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again. It's by Dan Santat, who's a Caldecott Medal winner. And after the fall, Humpty does go to King's County Hospital, where all the king's men work, and they put him together, kind of, not quite the same as before. And so he's not completely healed. And the worst part is, the reason why he was on the wall is because he loves birds. He's a bird watcher. I have no idea that he was a bird watcher. And so he loved to be close to the birds. But now he's terrified of frights. He's so afraid of heights. He can't even climb up a ladder to get to his favorite cereal anymore. So Humpty is just beside himself. But over time, his love for birds just overcomes his fear. He just has to find the courage to climb up the wall. I didn't look up, I didn't look down, I just kept climbing. And one step at a time until I was no longer afraid. And at the top of the wall, he and we find a beautiful surprise. So if you've ever been anxious and worried about something or nervous, this might be a good book for you, or if you know somebody like that. The reason why Dan Santat wrote the book was because his wife sometimes was worried and felt nervous, and so he wrote this book to try to make her feel better, and she did. Now, his illustrations are amazing. His perspectives are just incredible. Here's Humpty climbing the wall, one step at a time. He just kept climbing. Or here's another picture of Humpty Dumpty. So his perspectives are very, very interesting. Another thing which I really liked is he shows through the pictures about the passage of time. So because oftentimes healing doesn't happen like that. it often takes a long time, and he really illustrates that very, very well. He's the illustrator and the author of that. This book is for 4 to 8-year-olds, but I read it to my book group because I thought that there are some things in that everyone can appreciate, in this book that everyone can appreciate. After the Fall, by Dan Santat. Did you ever build something out of Legos or blocks or something, and then something happened to it? Somebody came by and knocked it down or something like that. Well, that's what happened. It can be pretty upsetting. But that's what happened to Taylor in The Rabbit Listened by Cori Doerrfeld. So Taylor has made a beautiful construction out of blocks. Just beautiful. But something happens, and the beautiful construction, the very special one is, we don't know if it's a girl or a boy, Taylor, but Taylor was very, very proud of the construction. But something happens and it gets destroyed. So one by one, animals come by and they give Taylor advice. So a hyena says, oh, just laugh about it. And then an ostrich comes by and says, let's hide and pretend it never happened. And none of this advice helps. And so Taylor is just so upset. But then a rabbit comes by very quietly. Taylor doesn't even notice until the rabbit is sitting right there. And the rabbit just listened. That's all the rabbit did was listen. What happened to Taylor when the rabbit listened? The artwork was created with digital ink and a whole lot of heart. That's what Cori Doerrfeld described it. It was kind of a clever way to describe the artwork. A whole lot of heart. And there's a lot of white empty space, I think maybe to show how alone Taylor feels. So an interesting connection that I told you that Dan Santat wrote the book to make his wife feel better, to help his wife feel better. And she wrote this book because she had 2 friends of hers, which she thought this book might help, and it did. So we all need to be comforted sometimes, and I think that maybe this book will help. So the next book that we have, the last book, this is another question that I've experienced. This is another thing I've experienced. At the beginning of The Rabbit Listened, we saw Taylor's magnificent construction. But in this book, The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spires, it begins with an idea. Have you ever had a clear picture in your mind of something that you want to make or to build or something, a recipe to try, but when you try to make it, it doesn't match the picture in your head? The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spires is a book about that. It's a story of an unnamed girl and her best friend, her assistant, also without a name, a dog. So she plans to make the most magnificent thing, and she makes a lot of things, so she's sure. She has this beautiful picture in her head, and she's sure that she can make the most magnificent thing of all. But this time, her magnificent thing just is not matching the picture in her head. She tries, and she fails, and she tries, and she fails, and she's getting madder and madder and madder until she wants to give up. But her assistant dog gives her the solution. She gives a solution to the girl, and will she ever make the most magnificent thing? Sometimes, I know I would have given up a long time before she did. I just couldn't have tried it so many times. But during these months, I think I've begun to learn that something doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes good enough can be magnificent. And the words and pictures work so well together. It's also a very funny book. This is just one of the funny pictures in the book. It's comparing the girl and her dog. The girl tinkers and hammers and measures, while her assistant pounces and growls and chews. So those are some funny illustrations. So again, it's just a wonderful match of illustrations and text. So, and she also, as with Cori Doerrfeld, she explained her artwork. The artwork in this book was rendered digitally with lots of practice, 2 hissy fits, and an all-out tantrum, which is pretty funny. So both of them, and she dedicated to the perfectionists in this world. So these are all things that, they're about patience and persistence and perseverance. And I hope that you keep courage and enjoy the rest of the summer. And we miss you very much, and we hope to see you again before too long. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.